From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And I'm Laura Brodnick.
On today's show, Millie Bobby Brown is a mum, but some of the controversy around it on the internet is kind of causing some issues. So we're going to get into that. Also, Stanley Tucci has gone off at Paparazzi on the set of Devil Wears Prada, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about that too. But first, something that has been all over my mum's group chat this last weekend is K-pop Demon Hunters. Mm-hmm. Now, Laura, are you a K-pop Demon Hunters fan?
I'm very aware of this cultural moment. I haven't personally watched it yet. Not because I'm against it, because we did a whole thing on Weekend Watch and Claire Murphy convinced me to watch it, but more so that I just have so much stuff I have to watch for work that I haven't found time for that. But I'm across the zeitgeist.
I knew you would be across the zeitgeist, but this past weekend, Netflix did something that they don't normally do. They did a theatrical release of K-pop Demon Hunters in cinemas, and it was across like Australia, Canada, US, New Zealand, and UK. So a pretty limited theatrical release. I have friends who went to this and they say that it was absolute chaos.
That's so interesting because usually Netflix only do a cinema run for like a handful of movies, and that's only because they're the ones they're putting forward for the Oscars, and for them to be nominated for the Oscars they have to play in a certain number of theaters. But I don't think they're putting this forward for Oscar nomination, plus it's already been out on the streaming service for ages.
Well, it's almost like it was like a reverse thing. So it used to be that a theatrical release was where they would make their big money and then they would move on to the streaming services. But Netflix's whole thing has always been streaming first. This isn't something they typically do, but after weeks of this fandom going crazier and crazier, along with the soundtrack becoming like Billboard #1.
The best feeling is when a new TV show or movie or something comes out and there's a song in it and you just play that song over and over and over and repeat. That's not for me yet, but I know it's like climbed all the charts. It's like topping all the like records and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think for me it's how diverse the audience is. That's crazy. Like my 2-year-olds watch it. Please don't judge me because it's probably not suitable for a 2-year-old. But my 4-year-old loves it, probably also not suitable for her. But basically they found out at daycare and it's older siblings and people, and then all of a sudden everyone's watching it to the point where like adults are now saying it's like bonding experiences with their children. I was reading like a New York Times article talking about how parents are now bonding with their children over theirs. Apparently over the weekend, they don't have the exact numbers, but it's between 18 and 20 million US in ticket sales over the weekend. I'm not sure what the global money that they pulled in was, but if this is like the amount that they can make in one weekend on a show like this, it's just like one of those big surprise hits. You need to watch. It is actually really fun. I enjoyed it, but the feedback that I got from my mum's group was it was absolute chaos in the cinema. There was like kids screaming. Everyone was like doing the dialogue, singing the songs. And it was kids from basically the age of like 4 to like 17 plus parents. It's just, it's amazing how it's gotten into the zeitgeist. Even Andy Samberg like mentioned how much of a fan he is.
I am on a big K-pop Demon Hunters trip right now.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
What the is K-pop Demon? What is K-pop Demon?
It's a Netflix movie. I'm here to promote my movie, but now I'm talking about this.
I feel like I need to like double down and get you back into it.
Well, again, I'm not against it, and I love jumping on a bandwagon. There's nothing I love when something's really popular, becoming part of that. And I also love when a song kind of, because I know that people are across the plot for this, but the song is really what got people in. And songs have saved movies from tanking before. Like I think the last example was The Greatest Showman. Like that came out in the movies, did super poor numbers, no one was into it. Then the song started, like This Is Me, that song started like kind of going across the charts. All of a sudden it jumped up the charts, and the next minute everyone's like going to the cinema to see it. I feel like that's been a little bit with K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah, sometimes it's the soundtrack that makes the movie, but this one is definitely one to keep an eye on and watch it with your kids.
And maybe they'll get an Oscar now they've had a cinema run. So we are still being inundated with photos and videos from the Devil Wears Prada 2 set. And people have really strong feelings about it. I don't know what your feelings are, but some people think because we've seen so many of the outfits now, we've seen all the guest stars, we've seen, everyone from like Paige DeSorbo to all these like huge stars. filming their little pop-up extra bits. We've seen Emily Blunt's really red hair. We've seen Miranda Priestley's like big on the street look. It feels like there's nothing left to see. And people feel like the movie has been completely spoiled for them because of paparazzi culture.
I know. And then I think it's kind of really escalated this past weekend when we saw Stanley Tucci yelling at paparazzi, which to me is like, if you've made Stanley Tucci mad, that man is a gem. Like, I could just listen to him talk all day. Like, how dare you make Stanley Tucci mad?
It's interesting because I think the kind of flipping point for this was there's been this big back and forth of people saying that they like seeing the photos. And I was a little on that side of the conversation where the whole point of filming in New York and filming out on these iconic locations is that the world gets to be, it's kind of like old school Sex and the City filming. Like, the world gets to be part of it. We get to see some of the outfits. There's often like fun little cat and mouse games where they'll print out, like Sex and the City used to do this all the time, and just like that, print out fake scripts and leave them around to throw paparazzi off, film fake scenes. And a lot of other movies who film in New York have done that as well. So it's become this little culture of itself of like, what's really going to be in the movie? What are they showing? What does this scene mean? But then the actual movie's all filmed on a soundstage, so you still get all those surprises. So I was kind of on that side of the fence. But this week, I think what tipped a lot of people, including Stanley Tucci and myself, over the edge is that they're filming in New York. It's Anne Hathaway and Stanley Tucci. They both look incredible. They've got these black outfits on and they're doing this walk and talk scene. And the difference here is that it's not just photos or faraway shots. The paparazzi and all these different photo takers are pushing in so far on the sets and filming that they're getting in the way of the cameras. But also you can hear the dialogue of what they're saying. You can hear Anne Hathaway as Andy Sachs like getting really frustrated at like what I think is obviously Miranda Priestley. So it's giving away like actual moments of the plot. And you can see Stanley Tucci, he's putting up with it for so long. He's walking and talking. The camera's getting closer. You can see his eyes keep darting over and he keeps looking at the camera like he's getting very visibly distracted and being pulled out of his character, to the point where at one stage he turns to the paparazzi and pretty much asks them to move away.
Do you know what I think the issue is here? And I think you mentioned it. It's like, that's going to be so distracting to you to like have people just watching how are you supposed to be maintaining this, universe of the Devil Wears Prada? I know they're professionals. Stanley Tucci is a professional, but that is incredibly distracting. And I can imagine how frustrating it would be. There's also been this speculation that because they're wearing all black that it's a funeral scene. So maybe there was like some concern that the dialogue was going to then give away the fact that is this like where Miranda Priestley dies? That's like some of the gossip I've been hearing.
Yeah, that it could be a plot point, because the video before that one where they're getting in really close to Anne Hathaway when they're about to start filming is that she's saying to Stanley and the people on set around her, I think they can hear. And she's talking about all the people who are trying to get footage, and she's flagging her concern before they even start filming that she thinks they're going to hear the dialogue. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like obviously paparazzi chasing celebrities in their personal life is still a huge thing, but all those photos that used to sell of them just like going on a coffee walk, out and about with like their partner, getting groceries, those don't sell as well anymore because, everyone puts everything on Instagram now. So we don't want this level of access to celebrities that we did before. Like, we want them doing scandalous things and hooking up, or photos of their kids, which is really messy. But I feel like now the new kind of prize for paparazzi is to try and get photos from movie and TV sets and like have a bit of a spoiler. And so I think they're getting more aggressive with how they get on these sets. And Stanley Tucci's not the first celebrity that's done this recently. Scarlett Johansson's the other one. Again, usually like Scarlett Johansson has been famous. She's in her 40s now. She's been famous since she was about 10 years old. She's had this really intense paparazzi circus around her. Like, she once had to drive her car a few years ago into the police station because she and Colin Jost were being followed. And she's filming on the street and you just see that she breaks and she turns over and she starts screaming and saying like F you and all this sort of stuff to these paparazzi. And then she's like, I'm working and you're ruining it. You're just ruining it. Like, get out of the way. You're ruining the shot. And you can just sort of see that like this is the thing that's going to tip them all over the edge.
I mean, you've seen other shots of it, like when they're up at the, at the Met, and they're kind of all walking up. The streets are packed to the point where it almost looks like the actual Met Gala, and it just takes you out of it. And I think it kind of spoils it. Like, we've seen the outfits. Are we getting plot points? Like, it's almost as though the movie is spoiled for you before you even get to see it. And I do think what's going to happen, I think that there is a fine line because I'm sure that the Devil Wears Prada production team are enjoying this to a certain extent because it's getting that hype for the movie and that's what we need. However, I do think that it'll start encouraging studios to do more closed sets and doing more soundstage material rather than on location, particularly for big movies like this. Or at the very least, I'm actually quite surprised that the barrier wasn't further back.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that they were able to get so close because anytime I've come across movie sets in New York, they have closed down so far that there's no way, one, that you're going to get in the back of a shot or two, you're going to be able to hear dialogue. So I'm quite surprised that the Paps and people were able to get that close.
Yeah, I think it's because of the scale of because they're doing such a long walk and talk, they can block off the entire road and park and all the back shots, but not the road kind of leading into it, which, the idea of kind of like, I feel like the whole like the cat and mouse game is what was fun of it, but now that it's become this kind of like stampede of photographers, it's not as much fun. So I understand why like a Stanley Tucci or a Scarlett Johansson are just losing their shit. I mean, Stanley Tucci, he didn't yell, but the look of disappointment on his face was worse than a yell. But you know who can't get angry is Anne Hathaway. Poor Anne Hathaway is the one who's like had the cameras in her face the most. But if you listen to her in that video and you see, and obviously it's a paparazzi shot, so it's, it's circulating everywhere, but it's like filmed not from the film crew. But she walks over to the photographers and she does her, remember like a while ago how she went super viral she got at an event and all these fans, like hundreds of fans were waiting for her and they started pushing in towards the car, all those photographers, and she puts her hands up and she was like, calmer, and she went like crazy viral for that. And you can kind of see that she's leaning into that again here in these videos. And I think one of the reasons that she has to be so kind of like she can't lose her shit is that The Devil Wears Prada was one of the last few movies where she was still seen as like the golden girl of Hollywood and people liked her. And it wasn't that long after that the Hatha haters started and all these rumors went crazy that she was difficult to work with on set and no one liked her. And like Jessica Chastain had to like get up on stage at a press conference and say that she was great to work with and this was so unfair. And I think she's really aware that she can't lose her cool the way other people can.
But do you know what's interesting? After like I saw the video, the comments on it were like, oh God, she's so patronizing by doing this. So like no matter what she does, people are going to be upset at her. They're like, why is she talking to the Paps like they're children? I'm like, she's actually being very level-headed. She's just saying, guys.
Yeah, she's using a mum voice a little bit and I respect it.
Isn't that better than her going off the rails? But then people will still find something wrong with it. Like that's, I guess, the place that the internet is. And it is. People just, for some reason, there are some actors that just don't like her, and they once that rumor mill starts of she's difficult to work with, she's a diva, once that starts, it's very, very hard to stop that train.
Exactly. So The Devil Wears Prada 2, it's coming out early next year. So they're cutting a fine line between filming and it being in the theaters like relatively soon. This time will fly. I think they've almost done filming. So at least we'll have like a period of time where they're not doing these exterior shots. But I'm still so excited to see the movie. I don't care if I've seen a few of the outfits. It's made me more excited in a way because I haven't been able to like piece together exactly where the characters are at or what's happening, or like you see little like, why is Miranda Priestley's character holding this giant water bottle? Like how far has she fallen? Like I think there's a lot of intrigue still.
I mean, I've been looking at the outfits kind of like through my fingers because I don't want to destroy it, because the Suddenly I See montage is probably one of my favorite like fashion scenes in cinema and really don't want to ruin it. So please stop.
Yeah, no, it won't be ruined, I'm sure. Well, we'll see. We'll see when it comes out.
Millie Bobby Brown and Jake Bon Jovi have welcomed a daughter via adoption, and it's kind of caused a little bit of an uproar on the internet. They announced in an Instagram post, "This summer we welcomed our sweet baby girl through adoption. We are beyond excited to embark on the beautiful next chapter of parenthood in both peace and privacy," which I think actually says a lot. Now, Millie Bobby Brown is 21 and Jake is 23. If you didn't catch by his last name, he is the son of John Bon Jovi. They got married last year in Tuscany, and obviously is fairly quick to have a child. She's still very young. So some of the things that the internet has been saying is that, oh my God, she's way too young to do this. Like, what is going on? And it all kind of felt like it happened very quickly. But after doing like a little bit of digging, which is not a lot of digging, you can see that Millie Bobby Brown is someone who has always been very family orientated. Earlier this year, she was on the Smartless podcast and talked about wanting to be a mum young. She said her mum was 21 when she first had her child and her dad was actually only 19. So that was kind of something her and Jake shared when they got together, is wanting to be young parents. And they both come from big families, big supportive families, and they really wanted to have children. There's been a little bit of discourse around the adoption, around the fact that she's so young and he's so young, and the fact that they've been married for such a short period of time.
Yes. My first thought seeing that announcement when it sort of started making headlines on Friday was that they obviously put up that very short, sweet little statement that ended in saying like, now there were 3 kind of thing, which is really cute. My first thought was like their hand was forced to an extent, because all these pat photos came out of her and Jake pushing a stroller and then like the baby's hidden, but then there was all this speculation, so they had to put a statement out. And there was like, it sort of came in waves. Like the first wave was people going, oh my God, this is so exciting and we love Millie Bobby Brown, because obviously people love her so much from Stranger Things. But then the next wave was like, but wait a second, she's too young to have a child. They haven't been married that long. And how did this happen? And it's really irresponsible, which opened up this whole conversation around like what the adoption laws were and how this was able to happen.
Yeah, and I think that this is not a dig at Millie Bobby Brown herself. I think it's more of a wider conversation about that access to adoption and to sometimes to a lesser extent to surrogacy, where some people are waiting for years and years and years to have, be able to adopt a child. And it seems like Millie Bobby Brown has done this really quickly, which I'm sure that they went through all of the appropriate channels. We don't know the details of that. But yeah, I think that's part of what a lot of people are questioning, is that, just because they're rich, they've gotten this so quickly.
Yeah, I think that was definitely the conversation. And there was like a lot of misinformation. I mean, I was reading a lot about it over the weekend as the reaction was kind of gaining momentum, and like listening to different people from both people who had both been adopted and who had adopted children and people who weren't able to adopt. And there were so many different thoughts and feelings messed up in there. And there were so many different thoughts and feelings included in that conversation. There was a bit of misinformation saying that at 21 you wouldn't be able to adopt. What I could find from the US laws was that you can from over 18, but you do have to be at least 10 years older than the child you're adopting, which obviously here is fine. And it was more so that just in any other factor, people were saying that being 21, being married sort of just over a year would work against you in the adoption system, which is very competitive and very difficult. And that they had gone, like there was allegations they had gone private adoption, and the reason they were able to do that is through having an immense amount of money, which means they could kind of almost pay to have this child, was kind of the backlash that people were talking about.
Yeah, and I think Lily Collins faced sort of a similar backlash when she announced her child via surrogacy, and it was that same kind of buying a baby thing. Now, after doing Diary of a Birth, surrogacy laws in Australia, it's all altruistic, which means that you cannot pay to have a surrogate here in Australia. In America, it has become a little bit more of a business. And I think that's where people kind of start to tie this in and make those criticisms. And again, I am not making those criticisms against Lily or against Millie Bobby Brown, but that's, I think, where that upset comes from. It's like that access that celebrity people have to things that some people are waiting decades for, I think is where some of that frustration lies.
Yeah, and also this is not a new thing. This is a conversation that's been going on for decades. It's just like the conversation around celebrity motherhood has sort of like ebbed and flowed over the years, because I think one of the reasons why there was a big backlash against Lily Collins was that there was this assumption, even though neither she nor anyone else from her family said anything like this, there was this assumption that she had a baby via surrogacy surrogacy because she didn't want to take time off filming like for Emily in Paris or her schedule or anything like that, which obviously we don't know. But this idea that you can kind of just buy a baby is this kind of ugly term that's been thrown around, and it's been thrown at celebrities, obviously because they're in the public eye and they have the money. And that was sort of the thing with Millie Bobby Brown and Jake Bon Jovi, is this allegation that they had kind of jumped the queue because it's so hard for most people to adopt. I mean, particularly in Australia, but like where adoption rates are really falling because it's becoming harder to access, but also in the US. This idea that they were like playing house because they were kids and had jumped the queue. But it kind of made me feel of that conversation that we were having over 20 years ago when like Madonna and Angelina Jolie and all these celebrities, like there was this huge surge in like celebrities adopting children from overseas, and it was seen as kind of like a trend of adopting designer babies, and that upset a lot of people as well because it was something that wasn't accessible to them unless they had money for like lawyers and travel and to show that they had like this home that they would be chosen from a list. And so it feels like we're having that conversation now just in a different way as like the conversation itself changes.
I think at the end of the day as well, I mean, she has expressed a want to be a mother and to be a young mother, and she is giving a child who needs a home, a safe and happy home. And there are plenty of families out there who are able to give children safe and happy homes. I think that's kind of the key thing here, is that child is brought up in a good environment. And I think that, I mean, I understand that desire to be a mother from a very young age. She was talking about how, you know, she was always playing with dolls, like being a mother felt like her calling. And honestly, that is how I always felt when I was younger. Like I wanted to be a young mum too. I wanted to, like, that was always something that really called to me. So I can understand that. Let's not forget, she's been acting since she was like 11, 12 years old. She's been on Stranger Things. She's had a very full life, and she's come with a lot of criticism against her as she's become a woman, because a lot of people are still, and this happens with child stars a lot, as soon as they go through from their child star days to becoming adults and becoming more comfortable with their bodies, whether that's in a more sexual way or showing off. Like Millie Bobby Brown has faced all this backlash about, you know, showing too much skin. Is she too sexy? Like, what is she doing? She looks, so it's almost like she can't win either way. You know, she's a child star. She's gone through this. She's had a very full life, very successful career. She's found someone she's loved. She's adopted a child. But I also do understand some of the criticisms from the other side.